Often when we talk about Impressionism, we're constantly talking about that very loose brushwork, which is very interesting when we get to someone like Gustave Caillebotte. Now, some Impressionists, of course, work with that loose, fleeting brushwork, but rather Caillebotte will work with classical brushwork, although his ideas are the same. He's still studying light and color. He's just blending his colors. He's using a more classic form. That doesn't change the experimental nature of the work. His work is still basically a study. And much of his work will reflect this new Paris that will be built under Napoleon, where and this is Napoleon III primarily at this point, and they've widened these boulevards. Part of this is for military movement. Part of this is to stop the constant uprisings that we had in the first half of the 19th century in Paris. There's a lot of reasons for it, but much of Paris is going to be rebuilt with these massive wide corridors to allow for easy movement throughout the city. Caillebotte, of course, is very famous for painting Paris a Rainy Day, this quite large canvas. Now, this is an interesting piece because at first glance, it wouldn't appear to be Impressionist. But he did use informal and asymmetrical composition common to the Impressionists. So what he's doing is he's going to start cutting things off. He's going to be inspired by photography. Where do we see this? Well, for example, the man on the right, who's only half a man, I guess you would say, and the people who are cut off below the knee. A very awkward place. Now, your classical artist spends time with preparatory studies working out the composition and therefore doesn't cut anything off. Because if it's going to be cut off, I might as well get rid of it altogether. It probably weakens the image. So where's Caillebotte getting this idea? Well, he's looking at photography. So think about the last time you took a photo in a city. There are probably people moving around. You're focusing on one thing. For example, a building in the background, but of course, you're not paying attention to the people moving in and out of the frame. And that's something we only see in photography. We don't see it in painting all that often. And this is the first time that we're seeing photography really have an impact on painting. And it's not where we would expect it. Here we're seeing it as a compositional element, creating a very candid feel to Caillebotte's image. Now, despite the sharp focus, this is the artist's impression of Parisian life. He's capturing a moment. We know exactly what it's like. It's probably sort of one of those damp and drizzly days. It's kind of gray. It's probably the morning. You see that little yellowish hue to some of the clouds. We've got enough rain that it's puddled up, but not enough to really get in the way of the image. We have the black umbrellas everywhere and the reflections off of them telling us that they're wet, as well as the stone in the road, which is rather interesting. Because as we move from foreground to background, you see the brushwork becomes far more abbreviated. In the foreground, it's very detailed. We pick out the cobblestone as well as the water in between. As we move back, that water becomes more and more just a quick shadow, a little bit of quick brushwork. And as we move further back, the stone loses detail altogether. Now, he's capturing that fleeting moment. He's doing something rather interesting here. When we look at the painting overall, he's captured a moment that's very common to urban existence, but one that generally isn't captured today, unless you go on Reddit and look at all the paintings of, a city in the rain at night, which seems to be the most common thing that you see. But still, he's capturing sort of day-to-day life. He's mixing the ideas of realism, capturing those sordid details of life, and mixing it with this impressionist idea of capturing a fleeting moment, because, of course, these people will not all be at the same place at the same time at any point in the future. He's capturing light and color, looking at the atmospheric effects, not only on the pavement and the people, but throughout the image. So he's looking at all of the elements of Impressionism. He's mixing them with realism to create a truly unique painting of the late 19th century.